And a big earthquake can really put a damper on your day unless you have a damper on your building.
When the ground shakes, you don't want a building that does.
Safety is the primary issue. And if you don't have a safe building, you don't have a building.
When an earthquake happens, the ground is moving and it has all these waves. And the ground can be shaking in any direction. So we have to make sure the system that we have can take the forces hitting it from any direction.
You want the ability to ride with the waves of the earthquake and have the building remain intact.
There's no scientific way to predict when there's an earthquake is going to be. However, based on what the scientists tell us, California is due for a big earthquake.
Preparing for the unexpected is exactly what engineer Deepansh Kathuria does. He's on hand as this former Los Angeles movie theater gets some reinforcement.
Today we are here to observe the installation of seismic damper frame.
This is the first building we've done with dampers. We decided to use a damper system based on Deepansh's recommendations so we could have a more open structure. In a modern building, that's what you want.
Generally, the most vulnerable parts of a building are the large areas with large amounts of glass and the areas where you have limited tie-ins of floor or roof. If you put a building together like this with the size of the concrete walls and everything, and you didn't have dampers, you would have the great potential for catastrophic failure.
That's exactly what they want to avoid. But it's a challenge installing dampers on an old building.
On a new building, you control all of the elements. We purchased these dampers 3 months before we actually started construction here, having to figure out a way to make them fit into the existing elements.
If you ask me what the most challenging part about installing a damper is, it's fitting the pin and fitting the holes together, and getting that small holder line is the most challenging part from construction perspective.
It's like threading a needle. But all that effort is worth it when an earthquake hits.
When Earth moves, it produces energy, and the seismic damper frame is like a shock absorber. So it uses a shock absorber to resist the energy. It dissipates energy, essentially. It's a fluid viscous damper. So the main component, it has a piston inside. We attach it to the damper frame. A frame consists of a steel tube, and the steel tube is connected to the black damper. The black piece of the damper is solved. So when the building moves, it pushes against this frame, and then the damper is compressed, like a piston is compressed, and that's when it dissipates the energy.
When complete, this building will have 12 dampers in total.
So the dampers are installed either at the top or at the bottom, so it becomes like a big brace.
Well, the damper crew traditionally consists of a man that runs the crane with a radio that lifts the devices off, and then you'll have an iron worker or two at the bottom making a connection, and one at the top trying to make the connection simultaneous as the crane holds it and swings in place.
They're trying to line up a 3-inch diameter pin.
So we want to make sure here today that the pin fits in, it's not too tight, it's not too loose, and we are able to get the pin through the damper and the gusset plate itself. Yeah, they've, if you notice, they've managed to got the first pin through. The next step they're going to do is weld the gusset plate at the bottom.
It's a good start. 1 down and 11 more to go.
You're going to see more dampers. They're just starting to be used in the reuse area.
By installing the dampers in this building, we've increased the performance of the building. So when there's a big earthquake, there's minimal to small damage to the structural components. However, there's no loss of life. So the dampers, they help us do that.
When the construction ends, this is what the building will look like.
This was a movie theater. I came and watched many movies here, and I felt pretty safe at the time. But now, the building will be much safer. It'll be up to current code and beyond code in certain areas.
In my opinion, if the buildings are retrofitted, they will perform better, and they'll provide more life safety to people.
I felt safe then, I feel even more safe now.
Okay, here's a few more discoveries on our radar today.